I get a lot of questions about how I film my online courses. So in this video, I'm going to take you behind the scenes to show you what equipment I use. I'll be linking to all the equipment I mention in the video description. So if there's something in particular you're looking for, be sure to check there. So I'm going to bring you around behind my desk so you can see exactly what I can see in front of me. I'm going to use my phone for that. So I've got an arm up here, lights, some stuff there, camera, another camera, and some more lights. So first I have to say, I know this looks like a lot of equipment, but I certainly did not have all of this when I first started out. For my first online course, all I had was this Lumix compact camera, which is not actually mine. This is a camera that I borrow from my husband, but I filmed everything on this camera. And for audio, I used a pair of old Apple headphones that had a little microphone in them. So that Lumix camera is still in my setup, you can see here. And that is what I call my camera 2, which usually sits off to the side a little for a slightly close-up view of whatever I'm doing. So I'm usually doing something here on the desk, and it's nice to have that extra angle. So the first bit of equipment I purchased was the pair of Newbies LED lights at either side. So you can see there's one there, they have those kind of barn door things, and there's one over there. So they came as a pair. I already made 4 courses by the time I got lights. So relying just on daylight for lighting at that stage, but then I started trying to make a course during the middle of winter, which was really tricky because we don't get that much daylight in the UK in the middle of winter. So these lights made a huge difference. Although I will say, when I first started using them, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I pointed them right at me instead of bouncing the light off the walls and the ceiling like I do now, which gives an overall much better effect. It's much more diffused and the kind of more even light. I mean, it's all a learning curve. So around the same time I got those lights, I also upgraded my audio kit and purchased a Rode lavalier mic, which you'll be able to see just here, together with a Zoom H1N audio recorder, which is in my pocket down here, which looks like this. So this became necessary because my first few courses were on Adobe Photoshop, and I was using a blue snowball mic, which was hooked up to my computer. But as I began to want to teach more drawing classes, I didn't want to be tethered to the computer. So this setup works for me really well because I can just pop this in my pocket and I can literally go wherever I want. So the other thing that I would say about recording on this audio setup, the lav mic and the Zoom H1N recorder, is that I also find the audio quality really great. I don't tend to do a lot, if any, audio processing in post-production. At the very most, I might do some just tweak the levels to make the volume consistent throughout. But I know a lot of people have to work a lot with kind of removing echo and reverb from their filming audio. I'm quite lucky in that I film in a small room which has got carpet, so I don't tend to have issues with that. But it just saves me a lot of time, the fact that the audio that I get from this is pretty much clean and I can use it straight away. So you'll notice there is a third light. So I've got the set of 2 on the sides, and then there's this circular one kind of between them. And this one is, it came a little later. I added it to my kit a little later. This one is called a pancake light, also by the company Newbies that made the other lights. And the reason I wanted to add this one in is that I generally always found with the 2 LED lights on the sides, they do a great job at kind of filling everything with light and making the light quite even. But I'd often find a slightly shadowy spot, often somewhere in the middle, and usually me. So that light is really just to illuminate the middle of the shot. And why it's great is it's already diffused, and you can, you can control the brightness on all of these lights. But I tend to have that really low, so it's only on about 20% brightness, because I don't want to be like in a spotlight, but I do want to make sure that myself and whatever I'm working on in the middle are nice and well lit. So next to that, you'll see straight ahead of me, this is my Glide Gear teleprompter. Now this is one of my biggest time savers. and I only added it to my kit maybe a year ago, when my classes became a lot more talking head heavy. You can see it moving there with my voice. So I get very nervous on camera and often will just completely mess up entirely what I'm supposed to be saying, or it just completely goes out of my head because I'm just not very I don't have a natural affinity for being on camera, let's say. Maybe I'll make a video about that another time, because there's quite a few techniques and tactics that I've found to help with that. So I would say that having this teleprompter has reduced my shooting time by at least 50%, maybe even more. It just makes the whole filming process so much smoother because I know what I want to say. I plan it in advance, and when I just talk off the cuff, I tend to either forget quite important things or inadvertently say the same thing twice because I'm worrying about all the other things, and is the camera recording? Do I need to change the battery? Blah, blah, blah. So the teleprompter has really been quite a lifesaver. So on the teleprompter there is an old iPad mini, and that's what's kind of got the text on it. And then the glass is what's reflecting it, so I can see what I'm supposed to be saying. I do have a few issues with it, just because I think it's quite an old iPad, so it does occasionally crash or freeze. But even though it does that, it's still way better than the alternative that I used to do, which was basically having some scribbled notes on some paper next to my camera. On that iPad is an app which I use called Prompt Smart, which scrolls with your voice as you speak, providing it can understand you and you don't deviate from the script. I've had to be a lot more precise in my scripting, I would say, but I would not be without this teleprompter now, and I would say it's the one piece of equipment which has streamlined my filming process more than any other. So I think if I were to just be able to keep one piece of kit, I think the teleprompter would probably be it. So behind the glass on that teleprompter is my Sony ZV-1. Now this is a close contender for the bit of equipment which has saved me the most time. I got this camera just over a year ago, and it immediately transformed the filming process to be just way less stressful. Now, this is my first digital camera. Before that, I'd been doing everything on my husband's Lumix, but I really struggled with focus on that camera. Now, the Lumix is a great camera. I love it, particularly for B-roll and close-ups, because it's got a really nice manual focus mode. But because I film everything entirely by myself, you know, there's no one here to sort of press record for me. I have to do it myself and then run behind my desk. I would often have to do a lot of reshooting due to video being out of focus, or I would try and use the autofocus on that camera, but it would do that really annoying kind of seeking, panning in and out, trying to focus on you when you're talking. So the Sony ZV-1 has totally changed that. Since I started using it, every single bit of footage has been in focus. So I use it as camera one for my talking head videos, so that is how I'm talking to you now, that's recording me. And it's got this really amazing eye tracking focus, so I can sort of move around and, you know, not feel worried about the fact that I might be going out of focus with the camera, which was a concern before. If you create videos by yourself and struggle with getting yourself in focus, then I really do recommend checking out the Sony ZV-1, because it's just completely eradicated that problem for me. So last but not least is the third camera, the one I have above my head, which is this one. It's my iPhone 13 Pro. And this again was an upgrade when I had to replace my phone anyway. I went with this one because of its really powerful camera and ability to film in 4K. So one thing to mention about this, which I learnt pretty quickly, is that if you want to use your iPhone for filming, you need to get a third-party app, because the native camera just doesn't give you the ability to manually fix the white balance, which is particularly problematic if you need to speed up your footage for time lapses. I use an app called Beastcam, but there are loads of different apps which do the same job, and I've been pretty happy with that. You do have to be a little bit careful with the settings, because you can easily end up creating video files which are just ridiculously large, which you then can't airdrop to your computer or transfer any other of the kind of usual ways. So the arm, which holds my phone, which you can see here, I'm going to give you a different shot of this in a moment. This is a fab little bit of kit by Glide Gear, which is the same company that makes the teleprompter. And it's basically an extendable arm with a phone holder on the end. And the other end can just attach onto a regular tripod. That's counterweighted by a heavy book inside that bag. So I set this up so that it's just out of shot from my camera 1 and for camera 2 for filming overhead demos. So the overhead demo is obviously really important when you're doing anything kind of demonstrations, drawing, whatever you're doing. So when I'm demonstrating something, I tend to have all 3 camera angles. It sounds like a lot, but I've actually found that it makes editing a bit easier, just in terms of keeping things interesting by changing the angle now and then. And what it also helps with is if you go wrong somewhere, or there's a gap, or you just have to stop something to change a battery, if you've got the 3 angles to switch between, it just feels a lot more seamless because the footage doesn't jump. So there are none of these kind of jump cuts, which can feel a bit jarring with demonstrations. So you also might be wondering why I have this kind of mega long desk, because actually it's a bit cumbersome when all the equipment is set up and takes up pretty much the whole room. But the reason for this is that when I'm not filming, the desk actually accommodates both my computer workstation and my husband's too. So 2 of us work at this, and it usually sits against the wall behind me. I have this little fold-up table to the side, which becomes my computer table during filming, but when I'm not filming, that's my kind of messy making table. And this room also doubles as a guest bedroom too, so we need the space to be flexible. I would absolutely love to have a dedicated filming space, which could be set up all the time, but that's just not possible right now. It's definitely an upgrade from my first 3 courses though, which I filmed in the kitchen of our old flat because I didn't have a dedicated workspace there. So I hope this little peek behind the scenes has been interesting. I do want to emphasize that all this equipment has taken me around 5 years to gradually accumulate. You do not need all of this to get started with making online courses. I started out with a borrowed camera and some old headphones. If you have a smartphone, that has pretty much all you need to get started. I've linked to everything I've mentioned down below in the description, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in another of my videos soon. Bye for now.